I arrived in Positano with 3 suitcases, one filled with linen dresses, one with skincare and novels, and one with boundaries I fully intended to enforce. The Amalfi sun hit different when you knew you were paying for the privilege. The private driver, also paid by me, though no one would know, swept me along the cliffside curves with the ease of a man used to clients who don't flinch at 4-figure invoices. Jason and Marissa were waiting outside the villa when I pulled up. He waved like someone spotting a distant coworker at a conference. She air-kissed both cheeks without making contact. "You made it," Marissa said, already glancing past me to the next arriving car. "I did," I said, adjusting my sunglasses. "Thanks for letting me know the schedule, eventually." "Oh," she laughed, then turned to Jason. "Didn't you text her?" He made a show of patting his pockets. "Must have slipped my mind." I smiled. Jason always did have a sieve where a spine should have been. The villa was stunning. 3 levels of terraced gardens and sea-facing balconies. Gold-trimmed everything. The kind of place where a single week costs as much as a year of someone's college tuition. I hadn't even unpacked when they cornered me in the garden. Jason cleared his throat like he was about to give a TED talk. "So, minor hiccup," he began. "Our influencer partnership with Delavite Champagne fell through. Total shock. We've already committed to the venue, but they want the deposit now. It's 80,000 euros. We have 25,000 euros liquid. Marissa's working on brand negotiations, and I'm close to closing with a client in Dubai, but we're just tight. Temporarily." Marissa leaned in, smile just shy of condescending. "You've always been great with money, Delilah, and so generous." My espresso hadn't even cooled. I sipped it slowly. "You want me to cover the difference?" Jason jumped in. "Just until the wire clears, 60,000 euros. We'll pay you back by—" "No need," I interrupted. "I'll pay it, but it goes in my name. Quietly." They blinked. "I'll front it," I said, "but there will be a clause in the rental contract. No disclosure. No names. You'll tell everyone it's your dream venue, fully paid by your partnerships. And when they ask, you'll smile and say, 'Some dreams pay off.' You don't mention me." Marissa opened her mouth, probably to object, but Jason nudged her with his elbow. "Deal." The next morning, I visited the venue alone to finalize the paperwork. That's where I met Noelle. Sharp eyes, a handshake like silk-wrapped steel. She ran the villa with the calm authority of someone who'd seen every type of client and every kind of secret. As we reviewed the contract, I noticed her glance at me over the rim of her glasses. "You're not the bride," she said, stating the obvious. "No," I smiled, signing the line. "Just the invisible backbone of this celebration." Noelle didn't ask questions. She simply nodded once, tapped the clause I'd added, the one about the anonymous financier retaining cancellation rights, and said, "Smart. I assume you'll want discretion." "Always." She closed the folder. "Well, Delilah, if you ever get tired of being invisible, just say the word." I didn't respond, but something in her tone stuck with me longer than it should have. That night, I sat on the terrace while laughter rose up from the lower gardens, Marissa and Jason filming some behind-the-scenes montage about manifesting luxury. I sipped wine I bought, ate canapés I paid for, and looked out at a view I technically owned for the week. They wanted me silent. That was fine. They just forgot that silence, when bought, is never free. The thing about slow betrayal is that it doesn't cut, not at first. It erodes, like salt water on stone. And in Positano, there's salt in the air, in the sea, and especially in the smiles. The wedding week unfolded like an Instagram fairy tale. Pastel-splashed brunches, silk robes monogrammed in gold thread, drone shots sweeping over crystal blue waters. Marissa staged it all like she was filming the pilot episode of a reality show she hadn't been cast in yet. And me? I was cast as background. The reliable auntie, the family spinster, the tolerated extra in everyone's highlight reel. No one said it, of course, but no one had to. Day 2. Garden brunch. Marissa teetered out in her white linen set, the one I'd mailed from Paris, tags still on, holding a phone on a gimbal. "Hi, besties," she chirped to her front camera. "Here's how I planned my wedding from scratch. No planners, no help, just me. If I can do it, so can you." She turned, twirling to show off the villa. Manifestation is real. I was in the background of the frame, cutting a fig. I didn't flinch, but I did press the knife a little harder into the wood board than necessary. Day 3. Pool party. Everyone was posing with branded cocktails Marissa claimed she designed. I overheard her telling one of her cousins, "We paid for everything out of pocket." We really believed in our vision. That wedding dress she'd be wearing on Saturday cost 12,000 euros. Bought from a boutique in Madrid I'd discovered during Fashion Week and paid for discreetly. "No labels," I'd said at the time. "Let it be your gift." Marissa had smiled and said, "You're a lifesaver." She forgot that fast. Day 4. The welcome dinner. The villa's lower courtyard glowed with lanterns, tables dressed in linen and wildflowers. There were 50 guests, flown in from London, Sydney, New York. Not a single one asked me how I was. Not really. Just glossy smiles and compliments on how I looked good for someone between careers. Jason stood at the head of the table, champagne flute in hand. He tapped it with a knife for silence. "Thank you all for coming," he began. "It means the world to have you here for what Marissa and I are calling the wedding of the decade." Laughter. Toasts clinked. "I want to thank everyone who helped make this week possible, especially my beautiful fiancé. She hustled for every detail, every flower, every candle." Marissa beamed, already misty-eyed. "And lastly," Jason continued, pausing just long enough to make it seem spontaneous, "my sister Delilah." All eyes turned. I lifted my wine glass slightly, unsure where he was going. She's had a rough couple of years, bless her. But she showed up. And let's all hope Delilah gets back on her feet. She could use a little luck. The table erupted in polite laughter. It echoed against the marble, the wine glasses, the inside of my rib cage. I didn't blink. I didn't gasp. I didn't even set my glass down. I smiled, held it, sipped my wine like it was vintage silence. Then I excused myself to the restroom, walked out the back instead, and stepped into the moonlight like it was a second skin. Noelle was leaning on the balustrade of the upper terrace, smoking a clove cigarette. She didn't flinch when I appeared beside her. I said nothing, just took out my phone, opened our thread, and typed one word, "Ready." She exhaled smoke and tapped the ash. "So it begins?" I nodded once. "Saturday, 6:15 p.m., sunset." She smiled, slow and sharp. "As you wish." The next morning, Jason texted me a picture of the tables being set up for the ceremony. "Can't believe it's almost here. Marissa wants you at the front row, of course." I replied, "Wouldn't miss it." He didn't notice the period, the cold, hard certainty of it. Here's the thing about betrayal. Sometimes it comes gift-wrapped in a tuxedo with a toast in your name. Jason thought I was weak because I was quiet. He thought I was poor because I was private. He thought I'd stay in the shadows because I had before. But people forget. Shadows are cast by those standing in the light. And the light? It was about to go out. The morning of the wedding arrived wrapped in gold. golden sun, golden Prosecco, golden silence from me. I woke early, not out of nerves, but out of instinct. I'd slept better than I had in years, lulled by the Mediterranean breeze and the knowledge that, for once, I held the matchbox. Marissa, of course, was already on Instagram Live by 7:30 a.m., hair in Velcro rollers, robe sliding just off one tan shoulder, clutching her matcha. "This is the most important day of my life," she breathed, eyes misty as if she were reading from a script. "I manifested every inch of this day. We did it without sponsors, without handouts, just hard work, love, and faith." She held a manicured hand to her heart, the hand that had once signed a rushed agreement to keep my name off everything, in exchange for 145,000 euros wired to the venue. But sure, love and faith. Guests started arriving in waves by mid-afternoon, all decked out in muted Italian linens and barely concealed hunger for clout. Everyone came to be seen. Champagne flowed. Drones buzzed like bees above the lemon grove. The string quartet played a slowed-down version of Beyoncé's Halo. The villa practically sighed with curated perfection. I stayed mostly on the sidelines, as always. My pew was 3 rows back, intentionally under a cypress tree that cast long, cooling shadows. I sipped my spritz, letting the bubbles coat my tongue, sweet and sharp. From a distance, I watched Jason tug at his cufflinks. He was wearing the Patek Philippe I'd given him 10 years ago, the one he later told people he bought secondhand in Zurich. And Marissa? She was glowing in that 12,000 euro gown, trailing handmade lace I'd flown in from a seamstress in Seville. They looked like a magazine cover. But I knew the captions were lies. The ceremony began right on time, because of course I'd paid for the planner. The officiant was one of Jason's fraternity brothers, now a lifestyle coach with 40,000 followers and a suspiciously white smile. He talked about soul partnerships and abundance mindsets. He called Jason a visionary and Marissa the feminine embodiment of grit. My stomach churned. Just behind them, the setting sun dripped tangerine light into the ocean. It was perfect, almost holy, almost. And then, right before the kiss, the applause, the start of the party, Noelle gave the signal. I watched her from the corner of my eye, a hand raised, 2 fingers curled. Cue, shutdown sequence engaged. First, the string quartet stopped. Not abruptly, they simply trailed off, like a breath held a moment too long. One violinist packed her bow quietly, then the lights. One by one, the decorative lanterns above the tables blinked, fizzed, and died. A hush spread, like fog rolling in from the cliffs. Confused murmurs. Guests craned their necks. Laughter fizzled. Jason looked around, frowning. "Is it the generator?" Marissa clutched his arm. "We tested it, right?" Then the music, a carefully curated Spotify playlist titled Marissa plus Jason Eternal Love, hiccuped, stuttered, and stopped mid-verse. Just silence now. Crickets, the ocean, and footsteps. Mine. I stepped forward slowly, deliberately, through the uneven light. People turned. Phones were raised. Some smiled, assuming it was part of the show. "Delilah?" Jason said, confused. I reached the mic stand near the pool, adjusted it slightly, let the silence breathe. Noelle stood at the back with her arms crossed, calm, confident. "Ladies and gentlemen," I said, voice even, "this concludes the ceremony." A beat. "This venue was sponsored, and I just pulled the plug." Gasps. One woman dropped her wine glass. It shattered against stone. Jason laughed awkwardly. "She's kidding. It's a bit. Right, Dee?" But I kept going. "Number, it's not a bit. It's a receipt." I took out my phone and opened the contract, held it up for the crowd. Venue, 145,000 euros. Caterer, 28,500 euros. Imported flowers from Holland, 9,200 euros. DJ, though he didn't get to play much tonight, 4,000 euros flat. More gasps. Murmurs turned to whispers. Marissa was pale now, mouth slack. You can't do this. There are guests. Press influencers. Oh, I can, I said softly. You signed the clause, remember? The one that said payment grants full operational rights to the signer if partnership terms collapse. I tilted my head, which happened the moment you lied. Jason stepped forward, face red now. This is my wedding. No, I said. This was my investment. You wanted a sponsor. You got one. I turned to the crowd. They asked me to stay silent, anonymous, invisible, and I was. Until Jason, my brother, made a toast 3 nights ago, suggesting I was broke, that I needed luck to get back on my feet. I paused. Well, this is what I look like when I stand up. The courtyard was dead quiet. Even the breeze held its breath. I looked at my brother, red-faced and frozen mid-step, and I felt, not rage, not triumph, but an unexpected wave of calm, like I had stepped out of a fog I didn't know I'd been walking in for years. I scanned the crowd. There was Aunt Elise, clutching her pearls, blinking like she was seeing me for the first time. There was Uncle Troy, clearly amused, and there, near the dessert cart that was now being silently dismantled, stood Marissa's best friend, Shayna, phone in hand, mouth slightly open, already recording. Of course she was. I never asked to be center stage, I said, turning back to the guests. I like the background. I've built a quiet life that most of you know nothing about, and that's fine. I don't need to be the loudest person in the room. I looked straight at Jason, but I do expect respect. I let that hang. I paid for this wedding because I believed in love, in second chances, in my brother's word. I swallowed, because this next part I hadn't planned on saying aloud. I've bailed him out 3 times before this. A failed condo flip in Miami, that app that never launched. And then, when Marissa's influencer deal fell through, I stepped in. Again. On one condition: anonymity. I raised my brows. And what did I get in return? Jason opened his mouth, closed it. Marissa looked like she might faint. What I got, I continued, was 3 days of snide comments, backhanded compliments, and a toast, at the welcome dinner I also paid for, that painted me as some pathetic, broke aunt they were doing a favor by including. I scanned the crowd again. And what none of you knew is that I own this moment, this villa, the music, the food, the damn napkins with their initials embroidered in gold thread. I bought all of it. I smiled, but not kindly. And now I'm unbuying it. The staff moved like clockwork. Noelle had trained them well. Plates were cleared mid-bite. Champagne flutes disappeared from hands. The DJ silently packed up his laptop. A low hum of disbelief rolled through the crowd. But what about the vows? Someone asked weakly. Marissa stepped forward then, desperate, voice cracking. Delilah, this is cruel. You're punishing me for a joke, for one comment? I turned to her, calm, steady. Cruel? I echoed. Cruel is rewriting a fairy tale with someone else's ink and pretending you authored the story. Cruel is mocking the person who paid for your dreams while you prance around pretending to be self-made. Her eyes brimmed with tears. Jason looked lost, the man who always counted on me to be the net beneath his tightrope. And for years, I was. I caught every fall, covered every bill, smiled through every slight. But not anymore. Then came the ripple. It started with one of Marissa's brand reps, a woman in a silk jumpsuit and expensive heels, whispering furiously into her phone. Then another guest got a text, and another. By the time the cake was wheeled back into the kitchen, it was clear the story was out. Someone had uploaded the video to Instagram. The caption read, "The silent sister just shut down the wedding she paid for." Within minutes, people were already sharing it, tagging self-made Marissa in their posts with cry-laughing emojis. Jason's jaw clenched. "You've ruined us." "No," I said gently. "I just stopped pretending you hadn't already done that yourselves." Noelle stepped beside me then, placing a hand on my shoulder. "We'll clear the last of it in 30 minutes, she whispered. "Everything under control." "Grazie," I murmured, still staring out at the sea of stunned, expensive faces. I turned once more to the guests, my voice softer now, final. "There's no need to stay. The event is over. But I do thank you, all of you, for showing up, even if it wasn't for me." I stepped down from the mic. Jason stared after me like he wanted to say something, maybe even apologize. But for once, he didn't speak, and I didn't wait. I walked through the crowd, past the influencers, the old friends, the carefully curated guest list, and I didn't look back. The sun was just touching the sea, dipping low, golden and unapologetic, like me. By the time I woke up the next morning, my phone had gone from quietly judgmental to straight-up hysterical. 83 missed messages, a dozen voicemails, 3 email subject lines in all caps. "Call me now! Do you know what you've done? Swing and my personal favorite. You're trending." It wasn't a joke. I was trending. The video, the one I didn't post, didn't authorize, didn't even know was being filmed, had gone viral overnight. Not just viral like wedding gone wrong viral. Viral like CNN requests a statement viral. Like #sponsored by Delilah was now a thing. And then came the media requests. "Good Morning America," The Cut. A woman from the New York Times emailed asking if I'd be open to a profile on reclaiming power in family dynamics. I nearly choked on my espresso. Meanwhile, Jason and Marissa? Crickets, until they weren't. By noon, Marissa's face was everywhere, blotchy and red, caught mid-sob in a now viral TikTok where she shrieked, "She ruined my life over a speech!" The top comment read, "Girl, she paid for your life." And then she returned it. 2 of her sponsorships dropped her by 3 p.m. One issued a very careful statement about reevaluating partnerships that don't align with core values. Jason's biggest real estate client, the one with the $9 million coastal redevelopment deal, texted him a single line, which he then forwarded to me in a fit of blind fury. "If you can't manage your sister, how the hell are you going to manage my money?" I didn't reply. Then came the call. "Mom." I debated answering. Truly. Let it ring once, twice, 3 times. But guilt is sticky, and I was raised to be polite, so I picked up. Her voice was already shaking. "Delilah, what happened?" she said, like she'd missed the last 48 hours of international coverage. I let the silence stretch. "He didn't mean it." She tried again, voice wobbling. "You know Jason. He jokes. He doesn't think. He always had a big mouth, just like your father." "Did you laugh?" I asked. "What?" "During the toast, when he said I needed a little luck." "Did you laugh?" Silence. Then the softest, most unbearable sound. She sniffled. "Oh," I said calmly. "You did." She tried to rally, as mothers do. "You embarrassed him, sweetheart. You humiliated your family." "No," I said. "He did. I just turned on the lights. You were always so quiet. Why now?" I almost said something cruel. I had it, perched on the tip of my tongue like a blade. But I took a breath. Let it go. Because I finally realized being quiet doesn't protect anyone. It just makes it easier for people like Jason to speak over me. There was a pause. A heavy, final one. I hope you're proud of yourself, she said. I am, I answered. For the first time in a long time. She hung up. I stared out over the Positano coast, 1,000 shades of silver and slate, and tried to make sense of it all. I felt lighter, not euphoric. That's not how real freedom feels. It's quieter, like unclenching a fist you didn't know you'd been holding for years. Then my phone buzzed again. Noelle. She sent a single message. You might want to see this. Attached was a screenshot. An influencer gossip blog, The Social Scoop, had just posted an exclusive. Inside sources say Marissa tried to sue her own wedding planner and lost. I clicked the link. Slowly, carefully, like I was defusing a bomb. Marissa tried to sue the wedding planner and lost. The article read like a soap opera with receipts. Apparently, less than 24 hours after the wedding shut down, Marissa marched into Noelle's office with a blowout, a cease and desist, and a full entourage of TikTok managers and one very sweaty Italian attorney. She was suing for emotional distress, brand damage, and, my personal favorite, interference with destiny. But Noelle was made of steel, espresso, and Italian legal clauses. Turns out she'd anticipated this from the start. She'd recorded their planning meetings. She'd documented every request, every payment, every clause, including the one where I, as the anonymous benefactor, retained the right to terminate the contract without notice in case of public defamation, insult, or reputational harm. Noelle had even had it translated into Italian, just to be safe. The judge threw it out before lunch. The public loved it. TikTok detectives unearthed old Marissa videos, passive-aggressive, money mindset rants that aged about as well as unrefrigerated shrimp. Jason tried to stay quiet, but someone leaked a group chat where he texted, "She was always jealous of me. She's just a glorified assistant with savings." Savings. He meant my investment portfolio. The one I built myself after working 2 jobs through college. The one that now included international real estate and a tech startup I'd funded 2 years before they went public. A glorified assistant with savings. And then came the knock. Not metaphorical. A real knock. On my villa door 3 days later, just as I was making myself a grilled peach salad and humming along to an old Nina Simone track. I opened it. Jason. Hair undone, shirt half buttoned, tan cracked into red. No Marissa, no cameras, just him and his desperation. "I messed up," he said, voice low. "You did. She's gone. She flew back to LA. She says I ruined everything. You did." He looked away, jaw twitching. "Can we talk? Just privately, like family." I stepped outside, closed the door gently behind me, and leaned against the railing. "I'm not interested in fixing this for you, Jason." His eyes widened. "I didn't ask you to—" "Yes, you did. You just don't know how to say it." He shifted, as if rehearsing a line. "You're still my sister." "I know. That's why it took me this long to draw a line." He looked at me the way people look at a painting they've never understood, confused, a little hurt, vaguely insulted by its confidence. "You didn't have to humiliate me." "Didn't I?" I said. "You used my money, mocked my worth, and handed me a seat at the kids' table of my own contribution." He flinched. "I warned you," I continued. "I made one request. Keep me anonymous. And when that wasn't convenient anymore, you performed your loyalty. You held me up as a charity case so you could look like a golden boy." He started to say something, stopped. I shook my head. "You didn't lose a wedding. You lost your mask. And that's free of charge." I turned and walked back inside. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even lock it. Just closed it. Quiet. Final. That night, I texted Noelle again. "How many nights is the villa still mine?" She replied instantly. 3. Want to extend?" I did. But not just for peace. Something else had arrived in my inbox. Something I hadn't expected. A contact from the cut. A podcast. A feature. An interview. Not about Jason. Not about Marissa. Not even about revenge. About what it means to reclaim your narrative when your family wrote it without your permission. I stared out over the sea again. It was bluer that day. Or maybe I just saw it better. Tomorrow, I'd start drafting what I might say. But tonight, I poured a glass of Barolo, turned off my phone, and danced alone in the kitchen to Nina Simone. I was free. Not from family, from silence. There is something sacred about 7:42 a.m. in Positano. The village isn't awake yet, not really. It exhales. The citrus trees yawn with morning wind, the church bell tolls as if stretching its arms, and the sea hums low and indifferent, like a song it doesn't know it's singing. I'm barefoot on the terrace, wrapped in a thin cotton robe I bought from a sleepy shopkeeper who didn't ask for my name, only offered me lemon water and a quiet place to think. My espresso rests on the stone ledge, still hot. I'm on my second shot and my fourth ignored call. Buzz. Voicemail. "Delilah, it's Susan from the Times. We'd love to talk about your story. We're calling it The Quiet Benefactor. Ring us back when you can." Buzz. Unknown number, Los Angeles. Voicemail. "We're producing a docu-series on financial estrangement within families. Would you—" Buzz. I slide the phone into a drawer. I've got time. They don't. I eat slowly here, a peach so ripe it apologizes in juice down my wrist. Sourdough warm just enough to melt the butter in whirls. Every bite a sermon in simplicity. It's been 8 days since the wedding. 4 since Jason left Italy in silence. 2 since Marissa posted a heavily filtered video about radical rebirth and selling crystals from a yacht in Cannes. I didn't comment. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I did laugh when she used the word resilience while sipping sponsored rosé. The truth is, I wasn't trying to teach anyone a lesson. I was trying to find myself in the noise. And when the music stopped, the real music, not the DJ set, I realized I'd been conducting someone else's symphony for decades. They held the spotlight, but I paid for the lights. And then they turned to me and asked why I was standing in the dark. I texted Noelle this morning. Just a short message. That clause worked like magic. She wrote back 10 seconds later. No emoji, no fluff. "Silence is expensive. You charged accordingly." I keep thinking about that phrase. We live in a world that shouts, that equates volume with value, but there's a different kind of power in restraint. In the withheld answer, the steady gaze, the pause before you say, "No, actually, I won't play this part anymore." And the cost of that silence? It's not just paid by you, it echoes. Jason hears it in empty client calls. Marissa hears it in the spaces between sponsorships. And I hear it when I journal by the sea, uninterrupted, unbothered, finally unbound. I've started writing again. Not emails, not checks, stories, real ones. About women who hold families on their shoulders until one day they set them down and realize they're still standing. Stronger, in fact. There's a sentence I wrote this morning in my notebook, and I think it might stay with me forever. Let them believe the silence is weakness. They won't hear the sound of your becoming until it's too loud to ignore. A waiter passes. "Another espresso, signora?" I nod. The sea is glittering now, unapologetically bold. My phone lights up in the drawer again, but I don't reach for it. Instead, I write the final line of today's journal. Make the wedding about you, just not the way they think. And with that, I close the book. Not the chapter, the whole damn novel.